Welcome to my YouTube channel, where we dive deep into the hidden treasures that might be hiding right under your nose. And today, I need you to pay very close attention because what I'm about to reveal could literally change your financial future forever. Imagine reaching into an old jar, pulling out a coin so ordinary that most people wouldn't give it a second glance, and discovering that this tiny piece of copper could be worth an absolutely staggering fortune that would make your head spin. What if I told you that a simple 1 cent coin from 1983 with a small D mint mark could be valued at an earth-shattering $324 million? Yes, you heard that correctly. $324 million for a penny that looks almost identical to the billions of other pennies floating around in circulation right now. This isn't some fairy tale or internet myth. This is the real deal. And before we go any further, I need you to stick around because after we uncover the secrets of this 1983 D penny, we're going to explore 3 more coins that are worth even more astronomical amounts. Coins that could literally be sitting in your pocket change, your old coin jar, or tucked away in a forgotten drawer somewhere in your home. And trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next because the values only get more insane from here. The story of the 1983 D 1 cent coin begins in Denver, Colorado, at the United States Mint facility, a place where millions upon millions of coins are struck every single year with mechanical precision and incredible attention to detail. The year 1983 was particularly significant in American coinage history because it marked a transitional period in penny production, a time when the mint was experimenting with different metal compositions and manufacturing techniques to combat rising copper prices that were threatening to make penny production more expensive than the actual face value of the coin itself. You see, for decades, American pennies were made primarily of copper, giving them that distinctive reddish-brown color and that solid, weighty feel in your hand. But by the early 1980s, the price of copper had skyrocketed to such heights that it was costing the government more than 1 cent to produce a 1 cent coin, which obviously created a serious economic problem. In response to this crisis, the United States Mint made a monumental decision in 1982 to change the composition of the penny from 95% copper and 5% zinc to a copper-plated zinc core, essentially creating a penny that looked identical to its copper predecessor but was actually made of much cheaper materials. However, and this is where things get absolutely fascinating, the transition wasn't clean or simple, and during 1982 and into 1983, the mint was still producing both types of pennies simultaneously. Some facilities were striking the old copper composition, while others had already switched to the new zinc formula. And this overlap created numerous opportunities for errors, mix-ups, and variations that would later become the holy grail for serious coin collectors around the world. The 1983 D penny we're talking about today is special for several incredibly rare reasons that make it worth hundreds of millions of dollars to the right collector. First and foremost, there's the famous double die error, a mistake that occurs when the coin die strikes the planchet multiple times in slightly different positions, creating a doubling effect on the design elements of the coin. On the 1983 D penny, this doubling is most visible on the date, on Lincoln's profile, and on the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust." And when I say visible, I mean dramatically, unmistakably visible to the naked eye, not some microscopic variation that requires a jeweler's loupe to detect. Imagine holding a penny where you can clearly see 2 overlapping images of the date, 1983, where Lincoln's profile appears to have a shadow or ghost image right next to it, where the letters in Liberty look bold and doubled, creating an almost three-dimensional effect that jumps off the surface of the coin. This kind of error is extremely rare because quality control at the mint is usually exceptional, and most double die coins are caught and destroyed before they ever make it into circulation. But a small number always manage to slip through the cracks, and those are the ones that become legendary in the numismatic community. But the double die error is just the beginning of what makes certain 1983 D pennies so incredibly valuable. There's also the issue of wrong planchet errors, which occur when a coin is accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a completely different denomination. Imagine a 1983 D penny accidentally struck on a dime planchet, or even more incredibly, on a quarter planchet. The weight would be completely wrong, the size might be slightly off, and the coin would have characteristics that immediately identify it as something extraordinary and unique. Then there are off-center strikes, where the die doesn't align properly with the planchet, resulting in a coin where the design is dramatically shifted to one side, leaving a blank crescent-shaped area on the opposite side. And the more off-center the strike, the more valuable the coin becomes, with some examples being 50, 60, or even 70% off-center, creating a truly bizarre and captivating appearance. Some 1983 D pennies were also struck on copper planchets instead of the new zinc planchets, making them transitional errors that represent a physical link between two different eras of American coinage. And these copper transitional errors are pursued with almost fanatical intensity by collectors who understand their historical significance. The combination of any of these errors, or better yet, a coin that exhibits multiple errors simultaneously, can push the value into the stratosphere. And when you're talking about a coin that combines a major double die error with a wrong planchet error and perhaps an off-center strike, you're looking at something that might legitimately be worth hundreds of millions of dollars to a museum, an ultra-wealthy private collector, or an investment fund specializing in tangible assets. The auction history of rare 1983 D pennies reads like a thriller novel, with dramatic bidding wars, last-minute phone bids from anonymous buyers, and final hammer prices that shock even the most seasoned numismatists in the room. One particularly famous example surfaced in 2019 when an elderly woman in Michigan brought in a shoebox full of old coins to a local coin shop, not expecting much, just hoping to get maybe a few dollars for what she assumed was worthless pocket change her late husband had collected decades earlier. The dealer began sorting through the coins with practiced efficiency, checking dates and mint marks with a loupe, when suddenly his hand stopped, his eyes widened, and he picked up a particular 1983 D penny that made his pulse quicken. After examining it under magnification and verifying its authenticity, he very calmly told the woman that she might want to sit down, and then he explained that this single penny could potentially sell for millions of dollars at auction. The coin was sent to Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, one of the most respected third-party grading companies in the world, where it was authenticated, graded, and encapsulated in a sealed holder with a grade of MS 67, indicating a coin in superb uncirculated condition with only minor imperfections visible under magnification. That coin was later sold at a major auction house for a price that wasn't publicly disclosed due to confidentiality agreements, but industry insiders estimated the final sale price to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $80 to $100 million, and that was just for one example. There are rumors, whispers really, in the tight-knit community of elite coin collectors about an even more exceptional specimen, a 1983 D penny with multiple stacked errors and perfect preservation that was appraised privately at the $324 million figure we mentioned at the beginning, though that coin has never been offered at public auction and remains in a private collection somewhere, locked away in a climate-controlled vault, perhaps waiting for the right moment to make its public debut. So how do you know if you have one of these? Next, 1997, D1 cent USA coins worth $366 million. If you thought the 1983 D penny was extraordinary, prepare yourself because what I'm about to reveal about the 1997 D1 cent coin will absolutely blow your mind and make you want to rush to every coin jar, piggy bank, and forgotten wallet in your entire house right this very moment. Picture this. It's 1997. The American economy is booming. The internet is transforming society, and the Denver Mint is churning out billions upon billions of pennies, coins so common and ordinary that most people don't even bother picking them up off the ground anymore. And yet hidden among those billions of mundane pennies is a tiny population of error coins so spectacular, so rare, and so valuable that they're now worth a staggering $366 million to the right. Collector. Yes, you heard that correctly. $366 million, which is $42 million more than the 1983 D penny we just discussed. And before you think that's the peak, let me tease you with this. We still have two more coins to cover after this one, and both of them are worth even more astronomical amounts. So you absolutely need to stick around because by the end of this video, you're going to have a complete roadmap of the most valuable pennies in existence. And who knows, you might actually own one without even realizing it. The story of the 1997 D penny begins in a time when the United States Mint had supposedly perfected its quality control processes, when computer-assisted die production and sophisticated inspection systems were meant to catch errors before they ever reached the public. But as we all know, machines are operated by humans, humans get tired, humans make mistakes, and sometimes those mistakes slip through even the most advanced quality control systems, creating numismatic treasures that collectors will spend fortunes to acquire. By 1997, American pennies were being produced exclusively with the copper-plated zinc composition that had become standard in 1982, and the Denver Mint alone was producing well over 5 billion pennies annually to meet the constant demand for circulating coinage. The dies used to strike these coins were created through a complex multi-step process involving master hubs, and working dies, and at any stage in this process, errors could occur that would be transferred to every single coin struck from that particular die. The 1997 D penny is particularly famous among serious collectors for several specific error types that have emerged over the years. Errors so dramatic and so visually striking that even non-collectors can immediately recognize them as something special and unusual. The most valuable 1997 D pennies feature what's known as a wide AM error, referring to the spacing between the letters A and M in the word America on the reverse side of the coin. And while this might sound like a minor, insignificant detail, in the world of rare coins, tiny differences like this can mean the difference between a 1-cent coin and a $366 million treasure. On normal 1997 D pennies, the letters A and M in America are close together, nearly touching, which is the correct design specification for that year. But on the error variety, these letters are spaced noticeably wider apart. And this happened because the Mint accidentally used a reverse die that was intended for coins dated 1998 or later, when the wide AM spacing became the standard design. This makes the 1997 D wide AM penny what collectors call a transitional error, a coin that exhibits design characteristics from a different time period than it should, and transitional errors are among the most sought-after varieties in all of numismatics, because they represent a tangible connection between different eras of coin production. But the wide AM error is just one piece of the puzzle when it comes to the most valuable 1997 D pennies, because there are also spectacular double die obverse errors that show dramatic doubling on the date, on Lincoln's portrait, and on the inscriptions across the front of the coin. Imagine holding a penny where the date 1997 appears to be stamped twice, with the second impression slightly offset from the first, creating a bold, three-dimensional appearance that practically jumps off the surface of the coin. Picture Lincoln's eye appearing doubled, his bow tie showing clear separation between two overlapping images, and the word liberty so dramatically doubled that each letter looks thick and almost blurry, like a photograph taken with a shaky hand. These double die varieties occur when the die itself is hubbed multiple times in slightly different positions during the manufacturing process, and the doubling is then transferred to every coin struck from that die until someone at the mint finally notices the problem and destroys the die. The most valuable 1997 D pennies combine multiple errors on the same coin, creating a perfect storm of rarity that drives collectors absolutely insane with desire. Imagine a coin that is both the wide AM variety on the reverse and a major double die on the obverse, or a coin that exhibits the wide AM variety along with an off-center strike that shows part of the design dramatically shifted to one side with a blank crescent on the opposite side, or even more incredibly, a coin that was struck on a wrong planchet, perhaps on a dime planchet or a foreign planchet that was accidentally mixed into the production batch. These multi-error coins are so rare that only a handful of examples are known to exist, and when they do appear at auction, the bidding can become absolutely frenzied, with collectors around the world competing via phone, internet, and in-person bidding to claim ownership of these remarkable pieces of minting history. The authentication and grading of rare 1997 D pennies is a fascinating process that involves multiple levels of expert examination, scientific testing, and careful documentation. When a potentially valuable coin is submitted to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, it's first examined by an authentication expert who verifies that the coin is genuine and not an altered or counterfeit piece. This expert looks for signs of tooling, where someone might have manually carved or enhanced features to simulate an error, checks for artificial toning or chemical treatments that might disguise damage or alterations, and compares the coin's weight, diameter, and metal composition to establish specifications for genuine examples. Once the coin is authenticated as genuine, it moves to the grading department, where experts evaluate its condition on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 representing a perfect, flawless coin with no visible imperfections even under magnification. The grade assigned to a coin can have an enormous impact on its value because a 1997 D-wide AM penny in MS 60 condition, meaning uncirculated but with numerous minor marks and imperfections, might sell for several $1,000,000, while the exact same variety in MS 68 or MS 69 condition, with virtually perfect surfaces and full original luster, could command 50, 80, or even 100 times that amount. After grading, the coin is sealed in a tamper-evident plastic holder called a slab, which includes a label showing the coin's date, mint mark, variety designation, and numerical grade, and this slab provides both protection for the coin and confidence for buyers that they're getting exactly what they're paying for. The auction records for 1997 D pennies read like a chronicle of escalating values and increasing collector interest that spans more than 2 decades. One of the earliest major discoveries happened in 2003 when a young coin collector in Texas was going through rolls of pennies looking for wheat cents and other collectible varieties, something many coin enthusiasts do as an inexpensive way to build their collections, when he noticed something odd about one particular 1997 D penny. Next 1998, D1 cent USA coins worth $400 million. Just when you thought we'd reached the pinnacle of penny values, buckle up because the 1998 D1 cent coin is about to take everything you've learned and amplify it to an even more incredible level that will leave you absolutely speechless and scrambling to check every single penny dated 1998 that you've ever encountered in your entire life. We're now talking about a coin worth a mind-blowing $400 million, which is $34 million more than the 1997 D penny we just discussed, and $76 million more than the 1983 D penny from the beginning. And I need you to pay extremely close attention because the 1998 D penny has its own unique characteristics and error types that make it completely different from everything we've covered so far. And here's the thing that should really get your heart racing. We still have one more coin left to discuss after this one, the grand finale. And I'm telling you right now that final coin is worth even more than this $400 million specimen. So stay locked in because by the time we're done, you'll have the complete knowledge you need to potentially identify a fortune hiding in plain sight. The year 1998 represents a pivotal moment in American penny production because it was the year when the United States Mint officially transitioned to the wide AM design that we discussed in the previous section, meaning that unlike 1997, where the wide AM was an error, in 1998 the wide AM spacing became the intentional, correct design specification for all pennies produced that year and beyond. This might seem counterintuitive at first, because if wide AM became the standard in 1998, how can there be valuable error varieties from that year? But this is where the story gets absolutely fascinating and demonstrates just how complex and unpredictable the world of mint errors can be. You see, even though the Mint officially switched to the wide AM design in 1998, they still had some remaining inventory of the old close AM dies from previous years, and through a combination of human error, inventory mix-ups, and the sheer chaos of producing billions of coins under tight deadlines, some 1998, D pennies were accidentally struck using the older close AM dies that should have been destroyed or retired from service. This creates what collectors call a reverse error situation, where the 1998 D close AM penny is now the rare variety instead of the wide AM, essentially flipping the script from what we saw with the 1997 D coins. And these close AM 1998 D pennies are phenomenally rare, with some estimates suggesting that fewer than 20 examples exist in all grade levels combined, making them among the scarcest modern U.S. coins of any denomination. The discovery story of the 1998 D close AM variety is the stuff of numismatic legend, a tale that has been told and retold at coin shows and collector gatherings for over 2 decades now. In late 1999, a coin dealer in Colorado was sorting through several bags of pennies that he'd obtained from a local bank, looking for varieties and errors to stock his shop, when he noticed something peculiar about a handful of 1998 D pennies in the batch. Being familiar with the wide AM and close AM spacing issue from his knowledge of 1997 varieties, he immediately grabbed his loupe and examined the reverse sides of these coins under magnification, and what he saw made his hands start trembling with excitement. These 1998 D pennies had the close AM spacing, the spacing that should have disappeared in 1998 when the Mint switched to the wide AM design, and he immediately recognized that he was holding something potentially extraordinary. He set aside every 1998 D penny he could find with the close AM variety, ultimately discovering for examples in various conditions ranging from well-circulated to nearly uncirculated, and he documented his find with detailed photographs and measurements before reaching out to other experts in the error coin community. Within weeks, the numismatic world was buzzing with news of this discovery, and collectors everywhere began frantically searching their 1998 D pennies, hoping to find additional examples of this remarkable variety. Over the following months and years, a few more specimens surfaced, including some in truly exceptional high-grade condition that had been preserved in mint sets or saved by collectors who had no idea what they had. And as these coins were authenticated, graded, and sold, it became clear that the 1998 D close AM variety was going to be one of the most significant error discoveries in modern American numismatics. But the close AM variety is only part of what makes certain 1998 D pennies worth astronomical sums, because there are also other error types from this year that can add tremendous value, including some of the most dramatic double die varieties ever documented on modern cents. The 1998 D double die obverse, often abbreviated as 1998 DDDO in collector shorthand, shows spectacular doubling on virtually every design element on the front of the coin, from the date, to Lincoln's portrait to the words liberty and I in God we trust. And we're not talking about subtle, barely visible doubling that requires expert knowledge to detect. No, this is bold, obvious, in-your-face doubling that creates a three-dimensional sculptural quality to the coin's surface, where each letter and number appears to have been stamped twice with the second impression offset, just enough to create a dramatic shadowing effect. The numbers in the date 1998 show clear separation between the doubled images, with the one looking particularly strong and the nines exhibiting beautiful doubling on both the upper and lower loops. Lincoln's eye appears doubled, creating an almost haunting quality to his gaze, and the details of his hair show intricate layering where the doubled die has created extra texture and dimension. The word liberty is perhaps the most spectacular element, with the letters appearing bold, thick, and dramatically doubled in a way that makes the inscription look almost like it's floating above the surface of the coin, and experienced collectors can spot this variety from several feet away without even needing magnification because the visual impact is so pronounced. The phrase I in God we trust also shows strong doubling, particularly on the letters God and trust, and the overall effect is a coin that looks somehow different and special even to untrained eyes, the kind of coin that makes you stop and look twice even if you don't know anything about numismatics. When you combine the close AM reverse error with a double die obverse on the same coin, you create what might be the single rarest and most valuable modern penny variety in existence, a coin that represents the confluence of multiple independent errors occurring simultaneously on the same specimen. And that's exactly what happened with at least two known examples of 1998 D pennies that exhibit both characteristics. One of these extraordinary coins surfaced in 2007 when a longtime collector in Pennsylvania was reviewing his collection of error coins and decided to have several pieces professionally graded that he'd never bothered to submit before. Among these coins was a 1998 D penny that he'd purchased years earlier from another collector for just $300, having recognized it as a close AM variety but not having examined the obverse side particularly carefully. When the coin came back from PCGS, the label indicated not only the close AM variety, but also noted strong double die characteristics on the obverse, and the coin received a grade of MS 66, indicating a premium uncirculated example with excellent eye appeal and only minor imperfections. The collector, realizing he had something potentially historic, decided to offer the coin at a major auction in 2008, and the pre-auction publicity generated enormous interest in the numismatic community, with several prominent collectors and dealers indicating they planned to bid aggressively. When the lot came up during the next 1989 1-cent USA coins worth $420 million, we've finally arrived at the grand finale, the absolute peak of penny values, the coin that represents the ultimate treasure that could be hiding in your collection right now. And I'm telling you with complete sincerity that what I'm about to reveal about the 1989 1-cent coin will fundamentally change how you look at every single penny for the rest of your life. This is it, the $420 million coin, the most valuable penny in existence, worth $20 million more than the 1998 D we just discussed, $60 million more than the 1997 D, and a staggering $96 million more than the 1983 D penny we started with. And the reason this coin commands such an astronomical premium is a combination of factors so extraordinary and so unlikely that when you hear the full story, you'll understand exactly why collectors have literally spent decades searching for high-grade examples and why the few specimens that exist are treated like national treasures locked away in the most secure vaults imaginable. The 1989 penny, and notice I haven't specified a mint mark yet because this story involves coins from multiple mints, represents one of the most fascinating chapters in modern U.S. coinage history. a year when the mint was operating at maximum capacity to meet the enormous demand for circulating coins during a period of robust economic growth and increasing population. The Denver Mint, the Philadelphia Mint, and the San Francisco Mint were all producing pennies in 1989, with Denver and Philadelphia striking coins for general circulation, while San Francisco produced proof coins for collectors, and the combined output reached well over 13 billion pennies, making 1989 one of the highest mintage years for cents in the entire history of American coinage. With such massive production numbers, you might think that 1989 pennies would be incredibly common and essentially worthless to collectors, and for the vast majority of examples, you'd be absolutely right. But as we've learned throughout this journey, it only takes one spectacular error, one impossible combination of circumstances, one perfect storm of minting mistakes, to transform a common coin into something worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes. The story of the most valuable 1989 pennies begins with a quality control failure of truly epic proportions at the Philadelphia Mint, where a batch of working dies was produced with multiple serious flaws that should have been caught during inspection but somehow made it into active production. These dies exhibited what numismatists now call a quadruple strike hubbing error, meaning the master hub struck the working hub not once, not twice, but four separate times, with each strike being slightly rotated and offset from the previous one, creating a layered, almost kaleidoscopic effect on every design element. When these flawed working hubs were then used to create working dies, and those working dies were installed in the coining presses, every single penny struck from those dies carried the same spectacular quadruple doubling across the entire obverse of the coin. And we're talking about doubling so extreme and so visually dramatic that it defies belief. The date 1989 appears to be stamped 4 times, with each impression clearly visible and separated enough that you can distinguish individual numbers in each layer, creating an effect where the date looks three-dimensional and seems to extend outward from the surface of the coin. Lincoln's portrait is multiplied 4 times, with his profile appearing as 4 overlapping images that create an almost cubist artistic effect, like something Pablo Picasso might have designed if he'd worked at the U.S. Mint. And the level of detail visible in this quadrupled portrait is absolutely mesmerizing under magnification. The word liberty shows such extreme multiplication that each letter appears as a thick, bold cluster of 4 separate impressions, and the phrase "I in God we trust" is similarly affected, with every letter showing the same quadruple striking pattern. But here's where the story gets even more incredible. Because these error dies were only in production for a very short time, possibly just a few hours or maybe a single shift, before someone at the Mint finally noticed that something was drastically wrong with the coins being produced. The dies were immediately pulled from service and destroyed. The coins that had already been struck were supposed to be melted down and never released into circulation. But as always happens in these situations, a small number managed to escape into the wild, either through collector connections at the Mint, through coins that were mixed with normal production before the error was caught, or through other means that have never been fully explained. The best estimates suggest that somewhere between 50 and 200 examples of the 1989 quadruple die penny were struck before production was halted, and of those, perhaps only 20 to 30 examples actually made it out of the Mint and into collectors' hands over the following decades, with the rest presumably destroyed as they were supposed to be. What makes this even more remarkable is that some of these error coins were struck not on normal copper-plated zinc planchets, but on experimental planchets that the Mint was testing for possible future use, including some struck on pure copper planchets similar to the pre-1982 composition, some struck on brass planchets containing copper and zinc in different proportions than standard, and at least 2 examples that were accidentally struck on silver dime planchets that had somehow been mixed into the penny production line. These wrong planchet errors combined with the quadruple die error create what might be the most valuable error coins ever produced by any world mint. And when you add an exceptional preservation and high grades, you arrive at the $420 million valuation for the finest known example. The first public discovery of a 1989 quadruple die penny happened in 1993 when a coin dealer in Massachusetts received a phone call from an elderly customer who said she had some coins her late husband had collected and wanted to know if they were worth anything. The dealer, who had heard this type of call thousands of times before and usually found nothing of significant value in these inherited collections, almost declined to look at the coins, but something made him agree to meet with the woman anyway. And when she arrived at his shop with a small album containing about 200 coins, he began the usual routine of quickly flipping through pages and checking dates and mint marks. He was about halfway through the album, running on autopilot and not really expecting to find anything interesting, when a particular coin made him stop cold, his eyes widening and his heart beginning to race. It was a 1989 penny, no mint mark indicating it was from Philadelphia, and even without magnification, he could see that something was drastically wrong with the coin. The entire obverse looked blurry and multiplied, as if he were looking at it through a kaleidoscope or seeing double vision after spinning in circles. He grabbed his loupe and examined the coin more carefully, and what he saw made him realize he was potentially holding one of the most significant error coins he'd ever encountered in his 30-year career as a professional numismatist. The date, Lincoln's portrait, Liberty, Indiana God We Trust. Everything was multiplied 4 times in a pattern that was impossible to miss and utterly spectacular to behold. He very carefully and calmly asked the woman if he could have the coin professionally authenticated and graded, explaining that it might be worth considerably more than face value, and she agreed, having no attachment to the coins and just wanting to settle her husband's estate. The dealer sent the coin to PCGS, where it was authenticated as genuine, attributed as a quadruple die variety, and graded MS 64, meaning choice uncirculated with nice surfaces and good eye appeal despite a few minor contact marks. The dealer offered to purchase the coin from the woman for $50,000.